Live is real. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer for The Athletic. I'm with my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. What's going on, Eric?
What's up, Dave?
We're winding it down, man.
Yep.
Quick and dirty spring training. About over. 2 more days down here. We are out.
It feels so good when you wrap up spring training.
It's
so redundant.
Yeah. Yeah, this would only be normally halfway through. I don't know how we do 7-week spring trainings. I was talking to Bowman today when it was getting sloppy for the Braves today. I said, clearly spring training is too long. 3 weeks down here.
Yeah. I always felt like it could be about a month or less. You know, it's mainly just getting the starters stretched out. But as a relief pitcher, you know, you get 4, 5, 6 games, you're ready to go. You get there 2 weeks before or a week before the position players and do pitchers fielding practice for every day you're doing this stuff. And it's just the same day over and over. There's one day off.
So they don't really have a lot of that this time.
Once you get to put that suit on and get on the plane for that first time and you're with your squad, you know, because there's so many extras in spring training too, but you're with the actual team you're going to be on, it feels good.
By the way, if you're watching us on YouTube tonight, then make sure to check out our sponsors in the description down there. All right. Okay. And as promised, we solicited some questions from all you guys, and we got a ton of them. So we tried to pick a representative sample and answerable questions. Some of them, of course, were unanswerable. So we skipped those. And we took some of the answerable ones. And why don't we just go ahead and attack those things? So the roster came out today. Well, it didn't come out officially, but Snit gave it to us. Bo and I got the roster as long as there's not any moves, which as Eric and I were talking about, the Braves have made moves in this final day or two several times in the past. So it shouldn't at all come as a surprise if they make one the next day or two, tonight, tomorrow, the next day. But as it is right now, we do have the roster. And the big takeaway is the surprising one, if anything, was William Contreras is on it as a third catcher, but he's not really on it as a third catcher, even though he's still a catcher. They still view him as primarily a catcher, and I think it's a good move. His bat is good enough that with a designated hitter, it's not as crucial to have a couple of backup infielders. As Snit said, you're going to have to have a real train wreck to have a game where you have to use 2 backup infielders in a game with a designated hitter. So they decided to use Contreras, who played right field. You guys might remember the other day he played a game in right field, started out there. And he handles himself fine in the outfield. This guy's really athletic. And Snit said they're going to start having him take some ground balls at third base. So they're trying to broaden his horizons and, you know, because they got 2 catchers signed for the next 2 years. And I don't know how much more this guy can learn in AAA. So at least while rosters are at 28, they're going to keep him up here and give him a chance. So, and if he hits, as Snit said, he might not ever go back to the minors again. But
yeah, you don't need that. You know, I've seen some people kind of criticizing the Braves bench a little bit, but with the DH, you don't need that depth nearly as much. You know, there's injuries and stuff, but I mean, the National League, you have to hit for that pitcher multiple times a game.
Right.
And in the American League, you'd have teams with a weak bench and they just never see the field.
Right.
People on Sunday.
Braves fans are just so used to the way it's been. Yep. So I understand it totally. You look at the bench and you go, really, that's it? That's all we got? But you got to remember, you're just not going to need those guys. You're not going to have to pinch hit. You know, that's where you always needed them. So, and remember last year when you did need a good bench, how bad everybody thought the Braves bench was coming out of spring training.
They all stepped up.
They ended up carrying them the first month. You had Adrianza and did I pronounce his name? If I already forgot what his name was, Ahira Adrianza. That's right.
You got it.
Yeah, he stepped up. Remember Pablo Sandoval? My God, he was on fire the first 2 months, and then he that was it for him, man. That was it. That was all that was left in the tank. He gave it on those pinch hit homers.
He played a big role early on.
Huge when their offense was lagging so bad. Yeah. So I mean, but everybody was complaining about the bench a year ago, and they were fine. So. And you know Alex Anthopoulos, he ain't going to stand very long for the Braves needing if it really bites him in the ass, he'll go out and get a guy. He'll make something happen. So, and like I said, not going to surprise me if they make something happen in the next day or two. So, and the other one was Spencer Strider made it. There was kind of some question, especially after he kind of got lit up yesterday with the Yankees in his third outing. His first 2 were really good though. And yesterday, so that's a lesson for the guys. He throws 100 miles an hour, but if you miss location, In the big leagues, it don't matter if you throw 100. Aaron Judge taught him a lesson in the first inning with a home run. He gave up 2 bombs, but he's got weapons, as Snit said. Talent plays up here, and he's got talent. So they kept him on that expanded roster, at least till, the first few weeks. And they're going to give him a shot as a 6th starter. Him and Tucker Davidson, they're going to be used, both of them, as a 6th starter, according to the matchup, whichever's a better matchup. And there are other times he's going to be used in the bullpen. And Strider can pitch anywhere from bridge to opener, to multi innings, because he's stretched out right now. Him and Tucker Davidson. So they're covered pretty well with the pitching staff.
Yeah, and he's a little more important now with Luke going down.
No doubt. And the guy like Thornburg from Riverdale High School in Sandy Springs and Charleston Southern, former Milwaukee guy, he's going to make the team, and he's going to be important. And Darren O'Day could be really important. He made the team as a non-roster invitee. He showed what he needed to show this spring. He's healthy. That twice detached hamstring is healthy now. And at 39, he's out there doing it, man. You got to respect that guy. Coming back from a second hamstring surgery.
I'm 37. I get sore playing golf.
His hamstring came off the bone again last year with the Yankees. He had it reattached, dude. Twice he's done this. And he's back out there pitching. I hurt just thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I respect guys a lot that are able to take care of their body at that age and find a way to stay healthy or beat an injury like that, because he's had a great career. It's easy. You tear your hamstring off the bone twice and just be like, well, there's my sign to mail it in. It's been fun. I'll see you guys, on the other side.
Yeah, and you take a huge pay cut and come back on it as a non-roster, on a minor league contract, and come back to prove yourself. What, he's really jacked up because he spent the offseason working out at a spot with a bunch of young guys from other teams. He was working there, I think, and working out. And he really said he ironed out some of his mechanics, and he was kind of rejuvenated working out with all these young guys. So he came to camp feeling really good, in great shape. He looks great. I mean, you'd never know that. So but he said
a lot of guys do that for you. A lot of young guys, you get to be around hungry guys. When you're around the young guys, they have energy, they train hard, and they're kind of not dumb, but kind of young and dumb, and just having fun, and it kind of keeps that kid in you alive. Versus, I'm sure he has a wife and kids. He goes home in the off season. If you're just working out by yourself and plugging away, and then you come home and change diapers, it's not quite the same fun factor. But I've heard a lot of guys, Hinsky used to say that, Rosti used to say that hanging around the young players kept them feeling young.
He had a rotator cuff strain last year with the Yankees early on. He was throwing pretty well, and then he had a rotator cuff strain, but the hamstring was barking, and he thinks it was from altering his mechanics slightly. So he cleaned that up in the offseason after having that thing reattached. And so we'll see. As long as he stays healthy, he could be big for the Braves. He's looked good so far. 3 scoreless innings. I think he gave up 1 hit, 1 walk.
Yeah, the bullpen depth overall is pretty solid, even, considering losing Luke.
Yeah. Yeah, it tells you how deep it is, because you lose Luke Jackson a few years ago, and that would have been pretty big. That year he had the great year for the Braves and was closing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
This year they can kind of lose him and go, sucks. But for Luke, it sucks. But they're so deep. There was 4 or 5 guys ahead of him. So
yeah.
But feel really bad for him, man, because he was coming off his best year, and he's a year from free agency. You went through that, right?
No, that was the year I went down. My elbow. So I'd gotten an MRI in August of 2012, and I was going to be a free agent after 13. And they did the MRI, and they said you have a T tear, which is just the shape of it in your ligament. So it's kind of going up and across. And I had pretty bad elbow pain, but I was getting everybody out. And so they told me, surgery is it's going to have to happen at some point, but you can keep pitching and see how it feels. And I finished that year out great. And I came to the next spring. And I think, honestly, it's like you go into the off season and your ligament kind of heals and things heal up. So when you go to throw again, it kind of starts re-tearing or hurting in a way that you're not used to. But I came in and I was throwing like 85 that spring training, and teammates were making fun of me because they didn't know, my elbow was torn up, but I was throwing like 85. And by the start of the season, I was getting back to like 89, 91. And I just didn't have the same life on my fastball. And I was just, I'd go to wash my hair and I'd get this sharp pain in my elbow, but I was still getting people out. And I got to the point about middle of May. I went and told Jeff Porter, I said, I need a couple of days off here. And he asked me if it was my elbow again. I said, yeah. And he's like, yeah, we could do a couple, a little bit of treatment, a little bit of that. But, the team kind of needs to know, because I was throwing the 8th inning. So we need to know what we're looking at here with your elbow. So we need to get an MRI. We got an MRI, and it was even more torn. And, they presented me they said you could try to rehab this thing and pitch again in July or June, but you're going to be out 3 to 4 weeks to get this thing healthy. And, just as a player, you're put in this position where if I didn't have the surgery then and I had it in August or September, I might not get a job the next year.
Right.
So like in Luke's position, if he has the surgery now, when he hits free agency, he can sell 5 months next year.
Yeah.
He could say, you're going to get me back at full strength at 13 months from now, 12 months from now. Some guys come back in 11 and feel great. Everybody's a little different, but he could sell and try to get a job next year, having banged out, most of his rehab during this season. And if he pitches through it, it's the right decision for me would be for him personally would be to get it done.
That's what he's going to do.
Yeah.
He kind of decided after originally the plan was he's going to get some more tests, see what happens. And he threw, it was okay, but he got up the next day and it was, he's like, nah, this ain't going to work. So
you can only fight it for so long.
Yeah, it's torn, and he's going to get it fixed. I think probably for the reason you said.
So shitty timing for him. I mean, he was probably looking at if he had one more good season, getting a 2 or 3 year deal.
Yeah, I mean, and
$5-10 million per.
It's just awful. It's like Johnny Venters, man. When he was on poised to have a huge contract, he never had it.
Never got paid.
And here he is pitching for the World Series champions last year, sub-2 ERA. He's coming back with an even deeper bullpen, a chance to do it again, and now he's going to be watching. Yeah, that sucks.
That's why guys take those, team-friendly deals sometimes. I mean, we've talked about it plenty of times, but there's always a chance that you get hurt and don't get to cash in on all the work you've done.
God, if I was a reliever, I know I'd do it. I'd ask them, okay, can we do like a 3-year deal here? Let's get some.
Well, that was the thing in 2012. We were supposed to talk after the season. They're like, after 2011, they were big on me. And then, I had a good year in 2012. And it was like, if you back up 2011, this offseason, we're gonna talk, signing you to a multi-year or something like that and keeping you long term. Once I got that MRI, it kind of went out the window. It's like, you already got a tear in your ligament. We're gonna have to go year to year on you.
We're good.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
Yeah. Safe travels, buddy.
All right, so here we go. Let's do a few of these questions. Eric picked a couple that he could answer that specifically for him, I think, to start with. Well, I can help on this first one too, because this one I don't know where it got started. I think maybe it was the story Buster did about that open locker in the clubhouse.
Was it Buster or Ken?
I thought it was Buster, but they
might have both said something about it. I've heard it in 5 different places.
Here it is. Travis Bedsole says, what's with the empty locker? And are players trying to keep Freeman's locker empty for the year? And somebody else asked the same question, said something like, is there a sour feeling in the clubhouse or attitude about Freddie, how you win? Is Dansby Swanson preventing the locker from being? No. Yeah. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, first of all, there's 40 lockers in the clubhouse.
Right.
There's always empty lockers, but
more in this clubhouse. It's bigger.
Yeah, there's plenty. They're not shoving rookies in a broom closet or something to fit this empty locker for Freddie. I think it's just, you kind of honor your teammates when they leave, and he's been there and been their guy for however long. Like Dansby's whole career, he's looked up to Freddie and had Freddie. He's been that rock in the on the team, but it's just one of those things that guys do, and it's cool, and you remember your teammate, and there's plenty of other lockers, and you're just not going to give it away the first year after they're gone, but it's zero drama.
And this is practical. This, even beyond that, Freddie's locker was open at the start of camp because they were still negotiating with him. They thought they still thought that first day we talked to the guy, still thought he was going to be back, and Snett was hoping he'd be back. It all changed and like that. Alex made the decision. We're not going to get it done. We got to move on to Olsen. So at that point, they've given all the lockers. They've assigned all the lockers, and Freddie's locker is still open in case they sign him. So the only way they would have filled that locker is you bring in Matt Olsen and you give him Freddie's locker.
No,
well, they're obviously not doing that. Then they signed Kenley Jansen. Well, you're not going to give the guy you got from the Dodgers, give him Freddie's locker and make that whole weird thing. And plus, Kenley Jansen is sitting over on the side of the wall with the other relief pitchers, where they are. So it's really only about, I mean, it's just and the thing is, I asked Charlie this morning. Charlie Morton came in, and I asked him specifically because of this question somebody asked. I said, Charlie, what's the deal with Freddie's locker? Are you guys going to leave that open this year back in Truist Park in the real park? And he was like, first he looked at me like, what?
Yeah.
He honestly had no idea what I was talking about. I said, are you guys going to have an open locker for Freddie, like to honor him or something? Because somebody asked him, he goes, and he kind of was like,
I don't know. Who cares?
No, but he was like, no, he goes, that wouldn't make sense was the word he used. That wouldn't make sense. He goes, we're not going to do that. He goes, that's a personal thing that we should show appreciation for what Freddie did to get this team where it is, to help get this organization where it is. But we're not going to pay tribute to him. And I said, like he's dead or something. He goes, exactly. Yeah. While he's playing for the Dodgers, he's wearing Dodger blue. We're not going to put a locker for him. So people are reading so much into this, what they read, that just happened to be open. Because like I said, they assigned the lockers when this camp started, and they still thought Freddie was going to be here. So they left it open because nobody, I mean, they're going to. So really, this is much to do about nothing. And there's not going to be an open locker at Truist Park, and they haven't even thought about it, according to Charlie. And that wouldn't make any sense, as he said. You really think the team's going to allow them to leave an open locker? And Freddie wouldn't want that. What does that even do? It's like the guy died or was in a car wreck or something, He left as a free agent. What do you do to all the other players that left as free agents? Or, that do you have a locker to Freddie, but not to Hank Aaron in the clubhouse, or not to Chipper Jones? I mean,
I know we did keep Chipper's locker empty, I think, for a year or two after he retired. But honestly,
he retired though. He didn't go play for somebody else.
Yeah, I think honestly, not everybody, but certain members of the media kind of get attached to the drama of a situation, and they get excited about it, and they want to hold on to it, and it gets people riled up, and it gets attention.
Yeah, you're right. Because you know what? I don't know if people will believe this or not, but as you know, when you're at spring training, you're totally immersed in what's going on in your job and what the team's doing, and you're not worrying. And these guys have moved on. They love the hell out of Freddie, and when they see him, they're going to give him a standing ovation, like Charlie said. When he comes to the plate, they'll be on the top step of the dugout and everything. But they're not thinking about Freddie they're not thinking about Freddie. Now, he's gone, and they've got a great player to replace him. It's just part of the business. So people are all concerned about what's that affected the clubhouse. It hasn't.
Yeah.
They don't think that the Braves really screwed him over or anything, They don't know all the ins and outs of it, too. They haven't looked into it like we have. I mean, they're these guys are here doing a job, and they love Freddie, but they've got a new teammate, and they've embraced him.
Well, you lose teammates all the time in baseball. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a business. You guys get released, traded, signed with different teams. I mean, it's something that you get so used to. I honestly, I think it'll be a lot harder for the fans than it is the players.
Agreed.
Because you, as a player, it's like, all right, we lost them, and I'm sure there was plenty of guys that were upset when it happened, but guys turned the page quick. And it's like, all right, we lost Freddie. How are we going to win now? It's time to go out and play baseball. And stuff just gets blown up, and it's funny how many times in the clubhouse there's this big story going on,
right?
And the only reason guys are dicks to the media answering the question is because they don't care at all. Like it's not even on their radar, like you said with Charlie. Like they haven't even thought about this specific thing, and they have to keep talking about it. And
Charlie's like genuinely didn't know what I was talking about. And he goes, that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
To have this locker for a guy who's in Dodger blue,
It happens.
And Charlie loves Freddie. He's the one that's pumped him up, saying, I hope the Braves are making him a real offer and all that. But even Charlie right now he's not, he's moved on. He knows it's just part of the business. And it'd be one thing if the Braves replaced him with a minor leaguer, and expected, so then they'd be pissed because they wouldn't have as good a chance to win. But they went out and got the other best first baseman, arguably the best first baseman in the American League, and brought him over and gave him a huge contract, and now he's set. So they moved on.
That was another thing that I saw was people saying, all these guys won the World Series or whatever, and they don't hand out a big contract to any of them. They give it to Matt Olson. I just think that, the main thing to understand is that athletes are really good at compartmentalizing stuff.
Right.
It's like you can be annoyed or pissed off with something the organization did, but that is in no way going to affect how you go out and play baseball. And it never affects that. You know, I mean, there's a rare guy that's pissed off he's not getting this contract extension, but most guys are really good at once the bell rings, once it's time to play, they go out and play. You know, they're not standing on second base mad they don't have an extension yet. You know, they're thinking about if this ball's in the gap, I got to score and stuff like that. So I don't see it really. I think the whole thing's been kind of blown up. I think they have a really strong group, and they're going to miss Freddie's leadership, but I don't see it being something that destroys the clubhouse or anything like that.
And I understand from outside the team because people are at home and they're thinking about Freddie, and they're thinking, but down here with the team doing their thing, they're not thinking about Freddie. They're thinking about the hour to hour, the day to day, getting ready. Freddie's not on their minds right now, man. And they probably won't think about him until they play the Dodgers.
That's a good way to put it. Just day to day, hour to hour, game to game. I mean, you're so wrapped up in your job and trying to win each day that you really don't get too distracted with any of the stuff that's floating around outside the team.
And I did a preview story, I think it's running tomorrow, that about and guys like Dansby and Austin Riley, and these guys talked about how great this clubhouse is and nothing has changed. And they came in this year still hungry, the same feeling. Max Fried said there's no difference. And I haven't noticed one difference in this team. Right. You would never know they won the World Series if you didn't have the signs all over the place down here because they act exactly the same. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, so. And you're not going to have one guy isn't going to – guys can make a huge impact on your clubhouse, but what the impact Freddie made – it's going to stay. You know, he taught them how to work, how to play every day, how to do all these certain things.
And that's what Charlie was saying.
That's their team mantra. That's how they function. Right. But it's kind of like, you know, all the time veterans pass stuff on to young guys and they pass it on to the next ones. These guys, all these guys that learn from him, they're going to hold on to all that stuff they learned from him. And sometimes you don't necessarily need that guy to do it anymore. You know, you've kind of learned your lessons from him.
And they'll hug him and all that when they see him. Yep. But then I think with fans, once they see Matt Olson playing every night, they're going to get past this. Right now, it's on their minds because they're not seeing the team every day. You know, they're not playing on every day. They're not playing games that matter. So most people aren't really paying attention. And they're in their heads conjuring these visions of what the clubhouse is like without Freddie and everything. And it's just not
walking
accurate.
Around with their head down.
It's not happening, man. I hate to disappoint anybody. And because Freddie was beloved here, but it's just not happening. They've moved on, man.
You move on quick in baseball.
Right. Yeah. All right. This is from
hey, DOB. Real quick, can I get it?
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. Can I get in real quick some ads? All right.
Please do.
Real quick, I just wanted to comment on that awesome KU hat after an amazing Final Four win. And
Rock chalk, damn it.
Much like
tomorrow night, everybody.
Everyone tomorrow night. Much like David McCormick, sometimes you have to shoot your shot. And with Roman, you can do that with your significant other when intimacy arrives. And listen, you can hit our special promo code. All you have to do is go to GetRoman.com and use the promo code 755. And listen, ED is more common than most people think it is. In fact, 52% of men between the ages of 40 and 70 will experience some form of ED. And listen, Roman helps you prepare yourself for the moment when intimacy arrives. It will come to you completely confidential and totally discreet. Free online evaluation, ongoing care for your ED can be found at GetRoman.com/755. And everything is straightforward, convenient, and discreet. And it comes in 2-day shipping. And listen, if you are prescribed today, you get $15 off your first month of treatment. Make sure you're ready to have confidence control. Roman ready. And, you know, you may need some money to purchase that, Roman. So we ask you folks to go check in with our friends at LinkedIn. Yes. And if you use our promo code REAL at LinkedIn.com/real, you can post your job for free. This is great for small businesses, those who are looking for further advancements in their career path and also looking to start a new career. You can create a job post in just minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and to the world, to the large professional network of over 770 million people. Add your job and use the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. There are simple tools like screening questions. It makes it easier to find the candidates that you want. And small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn every week. Make sure you cash in on that. Go to LinkedIn.com/real. That's LinkedIn.com/real to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. That's what we got.
Is that it?
That's all.
Thanks,
So theoretically with LinkedIn, if you were like an ED counselor or something, you're starting a business, you could do it on LinkedIn, right? You could put your thing out on LinkedIn.
Yes, you're parlaying Roman and LinkedIn perfectly. That's exactly how it is.
And when intimacy arrives, you'd have your LinkedIn connection and all that. Yeah.
Emphasis on connection.
Yeah. All right. Okay, moving on. We got Cole Collins asks, Eric, back in the day, you, Venters, and Kimball closed the door like no other. Can you see the night shift? That's the name for the current bullpen for any of you who might not be aware, which I can't imagine there are any of you that aren't aware. Can you see the night shift with new additions having the same type of sustained success? Those Ventral days were golden.
Yeah, it's just a matter of staying healthy for most of these guys. I mean, you've seen Luke already go down. Jansen's getting a little older, but he's been as consistent as they come. Will Smith moving down to the 8th inning. That's pretty solid. I'm or the 7th, yeah, or mixing and matching with them. I think Minner's going to have a big year. He's had some great postseasons, but he hasn't been able to put together that big full season, 70 games yet.
What about Nutsack? Come on, man.
I know. I don't think his fastball is going to slump. I think he's got. I don't worry about him at all.
Speaking of Roman,
after everything he's been through, man, he's. I mean, he's as lights out as they come, but I just don't see his fastball slumping. Picking up McHugh was huge, but really it's just a matter of, I mean, that was our downfall. Me and Johnny got hurt and then Craig got traded. But if we'd stayed healthy, when you're on a run like this as a unit, you kind of just feed off each other and keep it going. I could see him having another year just like last year.
Boyle got hurt. Yeah.
Yep.
All these guys have done it a long time. McHugh was hurt, missed his time, and came back. And man, I saw him. I've watched him pitch a couple of times, and you look at him walk through the room, and you're like, "This guy is a stud reliever." And then he gets out there and pitches, and he just knows how to pitch, man.
And he knows how to spin the ball.
Yeah, he's a skinny dude, looks like a insurance salesman. But he gets out on the mound, and then you got Jansen, who's just a monster. He's a big dude, man. He looks the part of closer.
Yeah,
him standing atop the mound. As a hitter, you got to be like, whoa, because he's a big dude.
He's another guy that's got something for me that doesn't slump, and that's extension.
Yeah.
He reaches out there so far. It's like he's throwing from a 55-foot mound.
6'5", long arms, big guy too. He's wide as well. And a really
basically
nice guy
a one-pitch guy too.
Yeah.
Just firing cutters.
Nasty cutter. So yeah, it's Alex makes all these moves because depth is his thing. Depth is his big thing. Depth in key spots. And last year, with the outfield, he ran short. So what did he do? He went out and got 3 of them. And everybody's like, really? You got to go get 3? And what did it do? And he posted
they all
paid off. Yeah. Yep. So he goes out and gets Kenley Jansen after getting McHugh earlier in the week when everybody's got going, really? Another reliever? And then what happens? Luke gets hurt. And now all of a sudden you still got a very deep bullpen. But if you had not gone out and got Kenley Jansen, or McHugh, then all of a sudden losing Luke is a pretty big deal. And it might still be a big deal. But
maybe they knew something about Luke too. Right. I mean, he could have been banged up in the postseason or working with trainers in the off season. But yeah, that was another one of those moves when they made it. It was like, that's where you're putting 16 mil or whatever he got. And then Luke winds up going down and now you look good.
By the way, did you see Kimbrel's first game with the Dodgers? I think it was his first game last night.
Yeah, Dirty Craig needs a minute to get his bearings. Anytime he's in a new environment, he's got to settle in.
Wow. I think he gave up 2 bombs in the first 3 batters.
Dirty Craig doesn't get excited for spring training. He'll be good when the lights come on.
Them fans are going to be getting excited if he doesn't start pitching fast. There you got, here's another one for Eric, and it is, who are the 3 best relievers Eric has seen in person that he did not play with?
Ooh, that I didn't play with.
Did not play with.
Mariano, obviously. I saw him with the Yankees early on in my career, and he's one of those guys that, one-pitch guy just like Kenley. But I remember when I went over the first time I saw him pitch, I was asking Raul Ibanez. I was like, Raul, why don't you just sit cutter? He goes, buddy, we're all sitting Cutter. Okay. We all know it's coming. This guy's not a Hall of Famer because he's tricking anybody.
Yeah.
And I guess, Mariano's cutter just broke so late and so sharp that, I mean, it was just like it played tricks on their eyes, and they couldn't swing they had to swing where their eyes told them the ball was going, not where they knew it was going. He explained it to me, and I mean, it made perfect sense. But I'd say him. I saw K-Rod during the peak of his career, and he was a joke. It was really just his slider, because you saw him even when K-Rod started throwing 90 and he was with the Mets. He was still saving games because his slider was so good. So when he was at 97 with that thing, I mean, he was as tough as they come. And then I'd probably say the last one is Chapman. I mean, just coming in throwing 106. The first time you see that from the dugout is wild. It's just exploding out of his hand. You can hear it. So I'd say those three are probably the three best I've seen in person that I didn't play with.
We got another one here from Jason Rosnick. That last one, by the way, was from Primetime ZJ.
Okay.
Then we got Jason Rosnick here asked, why is Austin Riley so overlooked by everyone outside of Atlanta, and what can Michael Harris play center? I think there was a typo, or our guy, our producer typed it in wrong. But why is Austin Riley so overlooked by everyone outside of Atlanta? And I'm going to make that, can Michael Harris play center? Of course he can play center. That's what he plays. That's his position. The guy's a natural center fielder. He's got a great arm, great range. He's going to be a stud center fielder, and he is the center fielder of the future here. And that's why Pache was expendable, because Harris is going to be up here. I would say in a year, they got a real good chance next spring of making the team, and he can make his debut this year if he's playing real well and they have an injury. Because they don't have a center fielder right now. Duvall's going to play center for him, and Duvall's fine out there. He did it last year. And then they got Guillermo Heredia. He ended up starting half the year last year, but he's more of a backup. But they do not have a future center fielder or long-term guy. So as soon as Harris is ready, that spot's going to be his, I think. And he's a stud out there.
You think he'd be ready now if there was an injury?
I haven't gotten
to watch him.
He hasn't played above A ball, but he looks like it out there. It's hard to tell in spring training the guys he's facing. Yeah. Because most of them are minor leaguers that he's facing, especially late in games.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think they really want to be careful. He's too valuable. And look at him when they rushed Pache up. They thought he was ready. Ended up maybe doing irreparable damage to him. So who knows? And who knows if Hayward was ready? I don't know if that would have had anything to do with it. I don't think it did, but I think they would like to give Harris at least another year, because he hasn't played in the high minors yet. So at least half year in AA. And if he's raking in AA
this year, if
he's raking in AA, then either promote him to AAA midseason, or if they have an injury up here, boom. So, and then what was why is Austin Riley so overlooked? I don't really know that he is, because he made the first team All MLB team, and guys maybe he's overlooked with the mainstream media or whatever, and maybe but if you look like MLB Network when they rate third baseman and all that, he's not rated as high as he should be, but I think it's probably because he's only had one great year. But if he has another year like he had last year, all of a sudden you're going to see him up in the top 5 easily. But I think people are aware of him, and I think they just want to see him have another year. He's really only done 1 year, so.
Yeah. I don't know. He lacks the sex factor, it's kind of the Mike Trout effect,
I wouldn't say, field.
I wouldn't say he's overlooked or underrated as much as just underpromoted.
Yeah.
Because he's not doing big bat flips and flashy stuff. He doesn't have a neck tat. He
doesn't do anything on the field to draw attention at all.
He just plays baseball. And, there was a long time where that was the most appreciated thing about a player, was the whole act like you done it before thing. But now, the game's changed and people want to see flashy stuff. They want to see more emotion. And Austin's pretty calm and just goes about his business. And I think that's just something that's hard to sell and hard to, put on a Gatorade ad.
And he also doesn't even have that swag, that cockiness that Chipper had when Chipper was a young guy, when Chipper was hated by every other team because of just the way he carried himself. It's like, I know I'm a badass, even though he didn't have to say anything. Just the way he carried himself, but he did say some things too. But Austin doesn't even carry himself like that. He's just out there,
Yep.
Just like a guy doing his job. Yeah. Just a guy going about his business. Rarely shows any emotion. So that's probably a good explanation for it. He doesn't do a lot of flashy stuff. He just produces, but he has another year like last year. I think you're going to see him.
Yeah.
Given a lot more the respect he's due. So
it's like a Scott Rowland type, you know?
Yep. Yeah. That's a good comp.
Everybody plays against him, knows how damn good he is. And people have to worry about him. But if you don't there's just certain things you have to do that catch people's attention. And he doesn't do a lot of that.
No, he doesn't have that Chipper or Josh Donaldson kind of.
Yeah. I mean, he could grow a mullet and get a neck tat and start bat flipping. I'm sure he'd get some more Twitter followers or Instagram followers or whatever, but I don't think that's what he's after. Yeah.
Matt Carter. Is there any way fans can apply leverage to MLB about the stupid blackout rules? Did you have an answer for this? Because did you pick it? Because I have no idea. I don't have an answer for that.
There's ways around it. I'll say that. You gotta meet some nerdy friends that know how to bounce your IP address through Puerto Rico or something. Then it's not a problem anymore.
You can stream everything if you know how to do it. I mean, like when I was working at the AJC and we hired and Gabe came aboard, all these young guys that are under 25, Gabe could watch like any event. He doesn't even pay for cable, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm watching it." I'm like, "What are you watching it on?" He's got all these Reddit things, all these streams that come through. I'm like, I have no idea how you do that.
I mean, that's asking a lot of a casual fan or somebody in their 60s that just wants.
And it's
to watch
illegal as well.
Game.
You're promoting something illegal.
Yeah, I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying there's something you can do.
Meanwhile, my old dumbass will pay $300 a month for my cable and all my add-ons and everything else.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Sit on my recliner and go ding, 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 get every single thing I want.
The most frustrating thing about it, though, is like you can have, and I think this is what they need to fix, is you can have a subscription to that TV channel, right? But then you also have the MLB app. And there's no way to link your account and be able to watch it. Say you're at a barbecue or something at somebody's house,
right?
And you want to throw on the Braves game,
like
you're blacked out.
You can't do Sling TV like that,
right? Like you're going to be blacked out when you try to stream it through the app. I think they need to. I think they want the ads that are coming through the cable channel, and MLB TV doesn't link those. But that's something they definitely could work out because people are paying for these games and paying for their service. With Comcast or whoever they have. It needs to be a lot easier to watch the game. And you talk about growing the game.
It's a serious problem.
It's a
serious issue because people cut cords years ago and started doing like YouTube, get their stuff on YouTube. And you can't get these channels on YouTube and they're black. Right. So I understand people are pissed because they were all set and things were working for a while. And then all of a sudden it didn't work anymore. So it's like, do I have to stop all the YouTube and everything you do and just subscribe to cable again? And this is a newer generation, and they're just not willing to do that. It's not to me. It's just that's how you watch TV. You pay for the cable, and you get it. But that's not how these people grew up, and I understand their frustration because they were able to watch it and they had all their things set up the way they had it set up. They pay for the YouTube, they do this, and they save a lot of money because they don't want to pay for shit that they don't watch. And now they can't watch a game. So
and you get charged like
their frustration.
$10 per cable box a month, and you sign up for Comcast and your bill's $71 a month. And if you don't check that thing in 3 months, it's like $180. I mean, it's just it's kind of a scam in that sense that your cable bill always goes up. I think cable just pisses everybody off, but that's
$180. God, I'd flip to pay $180 anymore.
Right? Yeah, I don't have cable. I haven't had it in like 5 years, and that's why I hadn't watched the Mariners game since 2015 or something because I just don't want to deal with the whole blackout thing.
Right. The blackout rules are stupid, man.
It is.
Baseball's blackout rules are really dumb.
But that's why they got so much money from the cable companies is because they agreed to that. So that's something I think they could definitely fix. And that's something that'll grow the game a lot more than bigger bases.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Seth Winstead asked, someone on The Athletic said recently to keep an eye on the Braves clubhouse dynamics after the roster shakeup Freeman dilemma. With this great group and given the time you spend around the team, do you personally see that as an area of concern? We touched on this earlier. Absolutely not. It's not. It's just not an area of concern. Now, if they start terrible, I would say if Matt Olson sucks early, he's not going to suck early. I mean, even if he gets off to a bad start like Freddie did, this is a guy that's proven. Yeah. He is what he is. He's not going to have, so, and if he was a jerk, that'd be one thing, but he's not. Everybody likes this guy. He's like just the nicest guy in the world. So I just, no, that's not a fact. It's not. The clubhouse is great. And I told you, I've talked to a lot of people here from Ozzie, Acuña, both said it. Dansby, Austin, Max Fried, Charlie, they were all talking about this is a great clubhouse, and Alex goes out of his way to make sure everybody he brings in, Kenley Jansen, McHugh,
that's the kicker for me,
are all guys. These vets, these guys. He makes sure he doesn't bring in a clubhouse cancer, man, or a guy that's going to be a mope if he's not playing a lot or pitching a lot. So,
well, that's the biggest factor for me is that they consistently try. It's when they're signing guys, like there's some teams that if the numbers are good, they'll ask before, hey, we're thinking about so-and-so, the shortstop from Toronto or something like that. And they'll ask around the clubhouse and everybody be like, dude, that guy's a douche. Nobody likes playing with him.
Right.
Everybody around the league hates this guy. If you bring him in here, it's going to be a problem. We're going to have to deal with this guy. And some GMs trade for him anyway. I think that Alex has made a pretty consistent effort that everybody he brings in to try to vet their personalities. And it's like you said, if you had 2 or 3 superstars that were kind of turds on this team, then it could be a problem losing Freddie and losing a voice. But it seems like everybody they bring in is generally just a good dude. Yeah. So I don't worry about it.
Very, very careful about it. They don't ask 1 or 2 people. They ask like people that have played with him, people that have managed him, coaches. They ask a lot of people. And it's hard to go wrong when you cover all your bases like that because guys aren't going to lie to you,
Yeah.
So, by the way, I asked somebody used the expression that you've used to me before. I asked him about Matt Olson, how he's fit in. And one guy goes, yeah, he's the boys, man. He came in. He was like, I was like, yeah, that's what Eric says.
Yep.
Got a TNT 17 says, obviously we have a quality team and lots of depth. Who is your pick for a player that will surprise us either in a positive or a negative way?
Kyle Wright. I think he's ready.
I think that might be a good pick. He's looked good this spring, and he's going to get every chance. He's going to start game 3, and because they wanted to move back because he had a rain out. He had a spring game rained out, so they want everybody to have an extra day of rest for their start. So Ian moves into game 4. Kyle's going to start game 3. It doesn't matter. They're both going to face the Reds. But Kyle Wright has really looked good down here this spring. Probably as good as anybody other than, say, Charlie.
Yeah. I think he's had enough experiences now. He's been so close to putting it together so many times. I think he's finally getting comfortable. Starting game 3 is not starting game 5 or coming up from Gwinnett for game 6. Yeah. You find out the day before. Like he's starting to settle in on the team. But I mean, you watch him pitch.
Series appearance was huge.
That was
4
huge.
1/3 or whatever it was.
Yeah,
scoreless.
Yeah. He's had some big games in the postseason, and the stuff's there. You watch him pitch. Yeah. He's tall. He's throwing downhill. He's got good life on his fastball, good breaking ball, and he always looks like he's competing. And it just seemed like he would just have that one bad inning so many times in the past. But he figures that out. I think he's going to really surprise some people this year.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of somebody else that could be a surprise, but I can't really think of anybody. I mean, everybody had big years last year. There was a lot of surprise guys that had big years. Nobody had a really bad year.
Ozuna's looking pretty good.
Ozuna's looking pretty good. He's in good shape. He's going to be a lot better than last year. I think it's going to be somewhere between last year and the year before when he led the league in homers and RBIs. Michael Harris, I've talked about him ad nauseum, but once he does get here, which could be at some point this year, but if the outfit's going fine, it probably won't be till next year. But when he gets here, I think he's going to have an immediate impact. This guy looks like he belongs now.
Yeah.
So, and they just want to make sure with him. They don't want to rush him. He hasn't played above A ball yet. Nobody makes a jump from A ball hardly, I mean, that just doesn't happen. They got to play some in the high minors and see what he can do. But he could be I think he's going to be a star, actually. I think he's going to be a star. I think Ronald Acuña is going to come back, and they're being careful. They're being really smart with him, not allowing him to come back because he plays reckless, plays hard all the time. So I think when they do kind of unleash him in May, he's going to be ready to make up. He's going to be playing hard, and he's in great shape. I saw him face O'Day yesterday with that sidearm delivery, and he crushed one to line drive to center. It was in a sim game, and he looks good. He looks ready, man. So, but that's not a surprise to anybody.
No, the only thing he could do to surprise people is not be good.
If he struggled, yeah. And Olsen, I mean, we talked about him. Olsen's got to be great. There's no doubt. This guy's just a stud. He hit a bomb today, the same place up there. He went into the pavilion in right center, which is I don't know if you've been here before, if you guys have seen pictures, but the pavilion seats here are actually a section of seats on columns or poles above the fence. There's a concourse that runs along the top, walking concourse atop the fence. Fence is about 12 feet high in right center.
Yep.
And there's a walkway atop the fence. The pavilion is then on stilts or columns above that. And he hit the ball up into the pavilion the first time today to the right of the pavilion. So it's a poke, man. It's a good 450, 460.
You don't see it because he handled a high fastball today, up in the zone. You don't see a ton of lefties that hit a high fastball that well. Most of them, it's that down and in danger zone. They might top spin a single to right on that high fastball. But I mean, I was also impressed with his next at bat. He swung first pitch curveball and just missed it. He was about to go deep again. And then that bat after that, he got a first pitch slider, a pitch he hadn't even seen yet, and laced it into left center. And I think it was Hernandez dove and caught it and got a double play.
Yeah.
But
today, Verdugo, I think.
Verdugo, that's right.
Yeah.
I look at him and I'm still trying to figure out. I'm still trying to figure out where his weakness is, which is a good sign when he's on your team.
Who does Eric think will be the breakout player in both the pin and the rotation? Well, you already said the rotation.
Yep. Kyle Wright in the rotation. I think he's going to have a good year. But for me, I don't know if Minter counts as a breakout because he's had such good postseasons.
Right.
But he still hasn't put together that full season for me yet. We're at 7.
It's been a month in AAA last year.
Right. I think that this is the year that, especially after all those experiences, but I think this year would be the year that he throws 70 games or 60 games and puts up some big numbers.
And they're really going to lean on him too with Luke out. That becomes even more important. So, they're going to rely heavily on Kenley, McHugh, Nutsack,
Smith, Minter,
Will Smith, and Minter.
They got
all
some
those
depth.
guys. Will Smith, by the way, that might be my breakout guy because everybody struggled with. I mean, everybody ripped him all last regular season, including me. Said Snitch should have made the change. We all looked stupid, and when he in the last week of the regular season, and then throughout the postseason when he was just lights out. But he's back in that setup role. And you remember how good he was in that role, setting up for Melanson. And this guy's a stud, man. Will Smith. It looks to me more comfortable or more suited for setup, I think, for some reason, than closing. I don't know why, because he was great in the postseason closing. Great.
Yeah.
But there was so much traffic during the season. He got out of it usually, but so much traffic. And I think he's looked dynamite this spring.
Well, you don't always have to get out of it in the setup role. You got, that's a Billy Wagner quote. I remember saying that setup man's the best job in baseball because you start getting in trouble in the 8th inning setting up and you look down and Billy Wagner's warming up behind you. Right. I mean, that was the most comforting thing ever when I was throwing the 8th for the Braves is I'd be first and third, 2 outs or something like that. And I'd look down and there's Craig Kimbrell warming up. I'm like, the worst thing I do if I walk this guy, Kimbrell comes in and strikes the guy out. I mean, there's just so much less pressure in that role. But I think it's also really hard to be a lefty closer, unless you're throwing 100 miles an hour. Like I think Matzik is better suited for that role because he just has an unhittable fastball, and Will has a good fastball and a great slider and he pitches his ass off and he has balls and he battles, but it's still hard because hitters just take it to the next level in the 9th inning for whatever reason when they're down to their last out. Yeah. I mean, it seems like this isn't the truth, but it always seems like they're trying to put their numbers up or do some damage up until a certain point. And then for whatever reason, they get to the 9th and all of a sudden the game's on the line. Yeah. Everybody's willing to hit a single the other way. Everybody's willing to slap and fight and battle and, scratch and claw that 2-strike breaking ball that they're swinging and missing in the 8th.
That's interesting, man. That's really
it is. But if you watch the games, man, it's like, So, I think that Will had a lot of tough breaks for that reason last year where guys were hitting these infield singles when they might've been punching out in the 8th.
Yeah, I mean, so many of his hits were not hard contact hits, so they weren't, balls to the warning track. There were hits through the infield and everything. We're like, here we go again, or double to shallow left field, and just on and on, or down the line.
Yeah, that 40 homer lefty, that you face in the 8th inning and strike out pretty easy. All of a sudden, he's willing to just do an ass out little flare job to left to keep the game going.
Yeah. Austin Rissanen. Oh no, Josh Schwaber. Who was Eric's favorite batter to face? I don't know if that means the guy you could always get out,
Ryan Howard.
I guess.
That's an easy one. It's, you know, it kind of like sometimes it just builds where you have this confidence against a guy and he knows you have his number.
Yeah.
And it was like I would face Ryan Howard in whatever situation it was. And the pitch that I could make really consistently that he struggled with the most happened to match up. So I could throw him sinkers down and in, and he'd swing right through them.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, I'd get in a situation where, you know, Utley I hated facing. Utley, it was a battle every time. I just pitch around him. Howard was on deck, and I knew if I made this pitch 3 out of 5 times, I was getting out of the inning. And then it kind of builds into the point where he knows I've had his number, and I know I got his number, and the confidence is there for me and not for him. But I had like 3 or 4 years where, you know, that Phillies lineup had all those lefties in it in the middle and switch hitters. I was always pitching against them, but I had 3 or 4 years where it was just a pretty much a free out.
Oh, I'm thinking of how tough Ryan Howard could be, like Huddy that time when he hit a home run, 3 homers off Huddy, one to each field, one to each field, left, center, and right.
It's just all about the matchup, and for whatever reason, you know, I mean, my sinker and his bat path just matched up really nice for me.
Austin Rissanen, how do you see the DH situation playing out until Ronald gets back? Well, that's interesting because Alex Dickerson, left-hander who had good numbers in San Francisco a couple of years ago, not as much last year when he got more playing time, but he had good numbers 2 years ago. Right now, the plan is, barring some pickup between now and opening day, to have him. And now that Contreras has been kept as a third catcher, Contreras is going to be the right-handed DH a lot of times, and they're going to probably end up splitting those duties until Acuña gets back. So that made a lot of sense. Contreras, if he's going to get, because he'll get a lot of playing time that way, whereas the other roles he wasn't going to get many ABs, but he'll get quite a few ABs if he splits those DH duties with Dickerson. Yeah, and then once Acuña gets back, Rosario's going to left field, Ozuna's going to the DH spot. So that's the plan. So there you go. Dickerson and Contreras is the plan for now. Kyle Chambers, DB, do you think Acuña gets any time in Gwinnett for rehab before his return? Yes, he will. That is the plan. He is going to Gwinnett before he's activated. So when exactly is that going to be? Don't know, but say he's activated the first week, end of the first week in May. It probably started Gwinnett like, you know, the last week of April. It could be there for a week, 10 days, something like that. But that is the plan, for him to be there like a week, 10 days. And he will rehab at Gwinnett.
Yeah, he'll play some games in Florida too, you know, and in extended spring or whatever it is. That's usually where you get your feet wet, then you go to spring training. I think it's really cool, though, when a guy that big, I mean, that's what's cool about spring training is getting that chance to sit close. But a superstar like that goes and plays in AAA. You can sit 10 rows up and get a front row seat to him almost, you know. That's one of the cooler things about when those guys go rehab.
And you'll be, if you're outside in the parking lot, you'll know he's coming because he'll be in one of his gold cars, his gold chrome cars. I was going to the ballpark today, and I'm on Tamiami Trail 41, and I see this gold car up here. And I'm like, that's Acuña, man. I get up, it's a gold Lamborghini, and it was Acuña, of course. And he's right beside me for like 3 miles. He was the only guy driving faster than me on the Tamiami Trail.
Oh, that's what Austin Riley needs, one of those.
But it was his gold chrome Lamborghini SUV. Pretty sweet.
We got to get Riley in one of those things.
That would be funny. Riley hunts all off season. I can't see him going hunting with a gold chrome SUV.
Get a gold chrome F-250.
He'd get a camouflage, is more like it. A camouflage 250. That'd be great. A gold chrome F-250. That'd be good, man. Let's see. Aaron Berry, over-under on the Braves projected win total of 91.5.
I'm taking over.
That's pretty good. I'm taking over. I'll go with about 92, 93. They had 88 last year, and considering everything they overcame last year, yeah, a lot of guys had great years last year. Can they repeat them? I don't know, but I'd still go over. And I think the division, depending on what happens with DeGrom, the Mets are falling apart already, man. So that division might not be as tough as we thought it was going to be. Phillies, I think, might be the second best team.
Yeah.
They're gonna have terrible outfield defense, but they're gonna score some runs, man.
They got a lineup, and Harper's raking already. He's really turned into he's turned himself into a superstar.
Yeah, again, yeah. And they got a couple of studs at the top of that rotation. I think Nola's going to bounce back. Yeah. His strikeout numbers were still huge last year. He just gave up a lot of hits, but the stuff is still nasty. So those top two guys in that rotation, it's pretty damn good. Wheeler and him. So
yeah.
And Dave's improved the bullpen a little bit. Dombrowski has made some big moves in that lineup, though. They're going to score a lot of runs in that ballpark, especially. So, but I'd go over. I'd go with 92, 93 at least for the Braves. And the other one is odds. Max Fried wins the NL Cy Young. I don't know. With Scherzer right now questionable for opening day with shoulder with him? Sore shoulder? I forget.
I thought it was a hamstring.
No, you're right. Hamstring. I'm sorry. Hamstring. I just think Scherzer's at the point of his career. We've seen this before so many times that they way overpaid for him at this point of his career. And he's going to be great when he's out there, but I think he's going to have a lot of missed times, like this start, scratch, move back 2 days, this when he comes out 3 innings. He's not the Scherzer of old as far as health. When he's out there and healthy, he's going to be nasty. But and I think DeGrom is going to have 3 or 4 more stints on the IL this year if this first thing is not serious. He just can't stay healthy, max effort. I think Smoltz is absolutely right. Smoltz has said multiple times on air that DeGrom has got to look at himself in the mirror and go, I need to rein it in a little bit and not go 100% effort every pitch. I can get by throwing 96 instead of 98, 99. Because he can't stay healthy. He's not a big enough dude to stay healthy throwing that like he does max effort. I think Smoltz is right, man.
Well, that's what I think he needs to do is beef up, start eating some cheeseburgers because he's so skinny. I mean, he's just a rail. And I think that's part of why, he has those long levers. He's kind of like got that Randy Johnson velo where you're not seeing a lot of muscle on him. But, yeah, I mean, for me, it's when I look at him, I just think it's hard to be a starter and throw that many innings when you're that skinny.
It'd be like Max Fried being out there throwing 98, 99 every pitch, and nasty and not having a big curveball. But I just don't think that the way he is right now, the approach he's got right now, the size he is, he's just not going to stay healthy, man. So,
yeah, and he's already had Tommy John.
Yeah, I think Max Fried's got as good a chance as probably just about anybody. Kershaw's not Kershaw anymore. We don't know when Bauer's going to pitch. We talked about. Wheeler. If I had to do odds, Wheeler might be my odds-on favorite to win it right now. But Max Fried has really come a long way in the last 2 years. In that postseason, he had that start in the World Series. Who knows? He's looked good this spring, and I think he'll top. I think he'll be top 5. I think you can pencil him in for a lot of top 5 Cy Youngs in the next 5 years.
Yeah. He's just another guy that just has to stay healthy. I mean, that's the only question I ever have with Max, and Max just has weird injuries, like a knee, or
blister last year, the hamstring early, and he still ended up throwing a lot of innings. Yeah, that might have worked for him last year because he ended up throwing a lot more innings than he'd ever thrown. Those 2 IL stints early in the season might have actually helped him last year.
Definitely. I mean, some of my best seasons, I had like 2 or 3 times where my back hurt, and I got a week off, and it's a long season. I know it's starters get more rest, but I definitely think like with Max, it's just a matter of if he can put up the bulk to be in that Cy Young conversation, his numbers are always going to be there. I don't see him struggle too much.
He would have been way over 200 innings last year if he didn't have those IL stints. So that'd have been asking a lot from a guy that's not gone nearly that far. So that was a nice big step for him last year. And neither one of those was an arm injury. So that was the good thing.
Yeah.
This is from Atlanta Braves Forum. Do the Braves view Arcia or Shoemaker as potential heirs to Dansby, or are they seen as simple organizational depth, making either re-signing Dansby or acquiring another starting shortstop a priority for next offseason? Nah, Arcia is a utility guy, a backup. He's got good versatility. They signed him to a 2-year deal to be a backup at 3 or 4 positions, and he can play the outfield too. So, and they also played him at first base some, and Snit likes him over there at first base. He was really happy when he put him in a game the other day, the way he moved over there. So they like him a lot, but he's not the future shortstop. He's not. That's not what they got him for.
Shoemaker, get someone.
Shoemake could be the guy. He's come a long way. You talk about skinny. This guy's tried to put on weight, and he's put on about 10, 15 pounds, but he still needs to add about 20 probably. But he's got good movements over there. I don't know long-term if he's going to be a shortstop or another utility guy, but they really like him. It just might be a utility guy. I'm not sure what his ceiling is, but they like him a lot. The guy you're talking about, the heir apparent, no question in my mind, is Vaughn Grissom. That's the guy to keep an eye on and keep a name on the back of your head because he is a stud. No relation to Marquise Grissom, by the way. If you see pictures of him, you'll know what I'm talking about. He's
let me look him up.
Vaughn Grissom. He's 21. He's 6'3" from Orlando. What a steal of a draft pick. 11th rounder in 2019. And they only saw him because the Braves were scouting the other guy. Oh, what was the guy that went to the stud that went to Milwaukee? Riley Green. I think he's from the same high school as Riley Green, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Haggerty High and Oviedo. So the Braves were scouting the other guy, and Greg Walker saw this guy and said, hey, this guy's really good. A couple of weeks later or a month later, they told Walker, you know that guy you were talking about? Go back and scout him because we've heard some good things about it. They went and really liked this guy, Vaughn Grissom, and got him in the 11th round. And you talk about a year last year. This guy last year in both levels of A-ball hits a combined 319 with 28 extra base hits, 7 homers, 418 OBP. That's the thing that jumps off the page is the plate discipline. 882 OPS, 16 steals, and that's only in 87 games. 28 extra base hits, 7 homers, and a guy that's filling out. He's got a great body, a guy that could put on 15 more pounds easily, but he's already wiry, strong with the big shoulders. I mean,
good
really
defense.
Really good defense. And they think if he outgrows the position, easily move him to third. But right now he can play second, short, and third. So
yeah,
they like him a lot. Good arm, just a stud. And last year, the big thing was they promote him to high A. He goes to high A. The guy hits 378, 519 OBP in 12 games, 1114 OPS. I know it's only 12 games, but he struck out 5 times in 52 plate appearances after they promoted him to high A Rome. So that's the guy to keep an eye on, and that's the heir apparent.
So he might start there and get to Double A this year or keep moving up.
Maybe you'll have to get a bridge
for
1 year, but you know how they can do that. They can go get a guy for a year if they don't re-sign Dance, because Dance is going to be free agent. If they don't Dance is not going to take a 1-year deal, you know? He's going to get free agency. If they don't sign him to an extension, I mean.
He's kind of in a similar situation as Freddie, though, where I feel like if he was coming back or it was going to happen, it would have.
They've waited too long. If they planned on that. If they intended to do it, I think they waited too long.
Yeah, he's a year away.
Right. I mean, maybe if you did it right now, you could get him to like a 3-year deal, but you're going to have to pay. If you're Dansby, you know, he's not the kind of guy that's going to take a huge hometown discount, as much as he loves Atlanta. He's all about Atlanta, you know, but I mean, he's got a chance to if he has another big year. And that's a guy that's confident in himself, man. Way confident in himself.
He always has been. And he hit 27 homers playing great defense last year. I mean, I don't think he's going to have to settle for 3 years.
Yeah. But there's a lot of great shortstops out there, but they're not all on the market next winter. So we'll see. But the guy to keep an eye on, and a guy that if they don't sign Dansby for, you know, it's going to be because he'd have to have at least 3 or 4 years, at least.
Yeah. And
they'd be blocking this guy unless you're not moving him to third, because you know they're going to sign Austin Riley long term.
Yeah. If
they don't, they're crazy.
Right.
You know, and he's still a long ways away from free agency. So they should sign Austin Riley, but you're not going to move this guy to third, and you're not going to move him to second.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know,
because you got Ozzy for $50 a year for the next 7.
Right. So I think there's your heir apparent right there, Vaughn Grissom, unless he's just a huge trade piece, but they really like him. So Bo Evans says chances that Tyler Thornburg makes the roster, what he's shown the spring training coming off Tommy John, and do you see him helping the bullpen with Luke Jackson out? Tyler's a homegrown Atlanta Sandy Springs guy. Would love to hear your thoughts on him. As I mentioned earlier, he's not only good as a chance to make, he's going to make the opening day roster. Barring some big change between now and opening day, he's on the roster. Riverwood High guy, Sandy Springs, Charleston Southern, was a 3rd-round pick by the Brewers in 2010. He's 33 years old, missed all of last season and part of 2020, Tommy John with the Reds. But you go back and look at this guy's numbers. I didn't realize how good he was with the Brewers, man. In 2016, this guy had 2.15 ERA, 13 saves, 67 appearances with him that year in 2016, 90 strikeouts and 25 walks and 67 innings that year.
I'm trying to watch one of his highlights right now. I haven't heard too much about him, but I think I remember him now that you're describing him.
He's looked good this spring.
Yeah.
He's looked really good this spring. Did the full year, Tommy John, more than a year,
Yeah, I like more than a year.
And he looks good. He's 33, knows how to pitch, good stuff. They really like him this spring, and he's made the team. So he's going to get every chance to show it, especially with Luke out.
Oh, he's got a good breaking ball. It's hard. It's been hard. It's hard not getting to watch the games, from out here in Washington. But I got to watch today, and it was the thing that stuck out to me watching today was the lineup. The bottom half wasn't their guys, but Ozzie didn't play, but it's just power threat after power threat. There's no way to manipulate this lineup. You have to come see somebody, and they can all go deep.
We got a few more questions here. These are YouTube questions. All right, let's do a couple of these. Doug Robinson, how long of a leash do you think Nuke gets? I feel like he's gotten plenty of chances, and at this point could use a change of scenery. I agree.
Me too.
He's on the team because he's out of options, period. That's the only reason. They know that if you tried to get him through now, there are some teams, especially some bad teams, that would claim him.
Yeah.
Right. So what you do is you wait till the season starts. He's got a lot better chance of getting through on waivers. There still might be a bad team take him, but the hope is he comes out and he's pitching lights out. We've seen him pitch great sometimes. If he pitches great, you got a trade piece or a guy that can help you, especially with Luke out. So I know it's frustrating to watch him and know he's only making the team because he's out of options. But on the other hand, remember how good he can be on those times. And you'd hate to give the arm away for nothing if there's a chance you could get him you could either trade for something or he could help you this year. So I don't think the leash is real long. If he goes out and shits the bed the first 5 times out, then that could be it for him. And they could put him on waivers and have a real good chance of getting him through and send him to AAA and have him keep going and working down there. So
he is like the perfect fit for one of those guys that you let go and he goes off, with a new team. But that's mainly just you get into this mode when you failed with an organization multiple times and there's a narrative kind of surrounding you. Yeah. Every time you struggle, you can feel the energy of the fans, the coaching staff, you're answering questions from the media, the here we go again type of mindset is almost always there. So when he fails, it's like it's just so much more likely to compound and happen again. And then you go to a new team, and every time you go to a new organization, they haven't dealt with your bullshit. They haven't watched you fail. They haven't been disappointed knowing how good you can be. They're only focused on what you could do and what you could be and everything you're good at. And you get this fresh start. And if you get off to a fresh start there, all of a sudden your confidence is back and you take off. So even if they had to, try to slip him through waivers or something, he winds up getting picked up and he goes off for some new team, fits into a bullpen role, or goes to, Oakland or Cleveland or Baltimore or Pittsburgh, one of these teams that's not trying to win and can give him that chance to really pitch in their rotation. I mean, the stuff's there. The stuff's been there forever. And that's the unfortunate thing is he's been with a team that hasn't been able to let him figure it out at the major league level, but he goes somewhere and does it. Yeah. It's not necessarily the Braves' fault.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's not a reflection on the Braves failing with him. They've given him every chance. They've got great guys that have worked with him. They've got great teammates that have talked to him. So, and like you just pointed out, he still sees himself as a starter, even after these years in the bullpen. So he could go somewhere, sell that, they're going to look at that. He came within 1 strike of throwing a no-hitter against the Dodgers not that long ago.
Yep.
Some team that has dog poo in the last 3 spots in the rotation might give him a chance with nothing to lose. All of a sudden, maybe flips the switch and he's starting again and loving it. So, because he wants to be a starter still. So,
and they could tell him, look, we're going to lose 1,000 games this year, whether you pitch well or not. This is your chance. We're leaving you in the rotation. You have a bad start, don't sweat it because you're going back out there in 5 days. Yeah. And sometimes that's the confidence that. We've talked about it a bunch, with all these guys that have come up for 1 start and go back to AAA when they fail. It's a like really,
Kyle,
really
like Bryce
Kyle,
Wilson.
Tukey, there's so much pressure you put on yourself when if you struggle today, you're hopping on that bus to Gwinnett.
That was Doug Robinson. We got fuck Bill Gates with a PHUCK, Bill Gates, LOL. Could the Braves add
What's he want to know?
Could the Braves add Justin Upton to add to their outfield depth? Well, I mean, you can get him cheap, eminently cheap, because once he clears waivers, because he's certainly going to clear waivers, because nobody's picking up $28 million.
Right.
But I just would ask you, how bad does a guy have to be, either on the field and or in the clubhouse, for a team to pay $28 million for him to go play elsewhere? Now, I know people have told me on Twitter, okay, but he could still hit lefties or whatever. Okay. But how bad does he have to be for the team not to use him in that role? The Angels not to say we can just use him as our last guy, especially on an expanded 28-man roster. They still didn't keep him. And they know they're not going to get anything with trade for him. They said, we want him to go. We'll pay $28 million for him to go play somewhere else. It's only going to have to pay him $700,000. We'll pay the other $27.3 million.
Yeah.
So could they use him as a strictly to hit left-hander? Sure they could, but who's he going to platoon with once Acuña gets back? You're going to platoon him with Eddie Rosario? You know? You're going to platoon him with Adam Duvall? No.
You have to know if he's
you're going
to
DH
wants to
him?
Do that role too. You know,
you're not going to DH him because that's Ozuna's role. You're not going to have platoon. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Is he going to be a mope if he's rarely playing in the last year before another contract? Not that he's going to get another big contract, but is he going to want to go platoon?
I don't think he would want a platoon, but I know he's not going to be a mope. He's a pretty good dude in the clubhouse. I really like Justin. But at the same time, you know, it's like when he's picking his teams, he's going to try to pick a team that he's going to get to play.
Because he's going to be a free agent.
Yeah.
Right.
And if I was him, I'd try to go into a small park. Angel Stadium's hard to hit in. It's a big park. Yeah. I'd try to go to one of these teams, you know, maybe that's not competing, that'll roll them out there. Yeah, or like Baltimore or Cincinnati, these little small parks.
Yeah, and some of those teams, one of those teams is going to offer him a starting job because they're only going to have to pay him $700,000. Yeah, you know,
and you can have kind of a superstar on your team,
and they got a chance. Right, he can flip a switch and all of a sudden you never know with him. He's the streakiest good hitter I have ever covered, and there ain't even anybody close.
Nope.
That guy can go from looking like the best hitter in baseball to looking like a guy that has no clue for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah, and so if you're one of those teams that's kind of tanking right now, you pick him up, let him play for 3 months, and if he goes off for you,
you might better
get
trade
yourself
him.
A nice prospect for him.
Hey, you trade him in July, exactly.
Yep.
So that's why it would surprise me if the Braves got him, because they can't promise him any kind of playing time, extensive playing time. And he's going to want to go somewhere where he's going to play all the time.
Yep. And if they did get him, I would see it happening later after he'd already shown some resurgence in himself.
Right.
And there's some injury or something pops up and they need a bat. But I wouldn't think it was likely because he's not going to get to play a lot here.
And the other thing is Alex, don't forget who the GM is out in with the Angels. Alex's former assistant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Alex knows him very well, and if he's dumping Justin, Alex is probably going, God knows something about baseball. If he's just dumping him, man, is that really a guy we need to jump on? So anyway, that was a long-winded answer to the question, but
yeah, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't see an answer, but I've learned never to say never, because once you do, boom, it happens. Because Alex does some things that you are not expecting. So, but I would not expect that. So thanks for the question. Fuck Bill Gates. The next one is from S. Roberts, and it is, when Acuña is back at the end of April, what roster adjustments do you think will be made? Are both Contreras and Strider just up for a cup of coffee to start the year? That's impossible to predict. For one, they're going to go from 28 to 26 guys on May 2nd before Acuña even comes back. They're going to go to cut 2 guys. Now, you could say, Contreras and Strider will be those guys, but not if they're pitching well, or not if Contreras is hitting well. He won't be that guy. Dickerson could be that guy that they release, or Tucker Davidson could be that pitcher that they release, or Thornburg. So you just don't know. It's going to depend what they do with their opportunities between now and then.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of having that extra space, is they get to answer a lot of questions over this next month.
Yeah. And that's it. That's all. There were other questions. We didn't write them down. We ran out of time, and I'm tired anyway. I got to write the story about Matt Olson. So fuck Bill Gates. And
that's a good one.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for all the questions, guys. That was great. We'll have to do this again. And we're going to start those rooms things soon as they figure out the technology for Eric's phone, because he does it, or he's not for Eric's phone, but he works outside the company. So he's got, I don't know, some arrangement. Right, Cam? We're going to start them soon, though.
Yeah, hopefully next week. It's going to be after opening day, but we should have one more episode this week. And then the game plan is to try to expand to 3 shows a week like we've been teasing before.
One rooms show.
Yep, one room
where you
show.
guys are talking to us live.
Yep, directly to you guys in the Athletic app.
And if anybody is, unless it's people start, if anybody's like an asshole, we're just going to cut it off. We're just going to
hang up on them.
We don't need this shit.
Get this guy out of here.
Yeah, we'll go back to 2 or 3 shows regular. So, but we're going to give you a chance. We want to talk to you folks, the good ones, the good eggs. All right, that's it. 7:55 is real. 2 more days down at spring training, and then this shit starts for real. Ready or not. And the Braves got a chance to clean up that first home series. I know, our first home stand. 4 games against the Reds, 3 against the nasty rebuilding Nats. We're out. Thanks, everybody.